Hello everyone, my name is Norberto and today I will be discussing the analysis of language teaching inside the Trojan horse and its key concept. So the objective of this discussion is first to identify what is language teaching materials. The second is to determine the framework for analyzing language teaching materials. And lastly, to identify the key concept of Lil Jan's article. So let's start the discussion by identifying what are language teaching materials. According to Tomlinson, the term material in language teaching and learning refers to everything that is used to help teach language learners, while Richard and Schmed state that language teaching materials help to facilitate teachers and learners in language learning. It can be in a form of linguistic, visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. So there are lots of example of teaching language materials such as the textbooks, workbooks, CDs, and community resources. But the question is, how can we analyze language teaching materials so that we can see what's inside the material and take more control of them and use it for language teaching? So according to Andrew Littlejohn, there is a general framework that we can use in analyzing language material. Using this framework allows the materials to speak for themselves and helps teachers analyze and look closely into materials before coming to their own conclusion about the desirability of the materials. These suggest three separate questions which we need to consider carefully. So first, what aspect of material should we examine? Second, how can we examine the materials? And the third one, how can we relate the findings to our own teaching context? Let's start with the first question in the framework of Little John. What aspect of material should we examine? This focuses on the materials as a pedagogic device, meaning that the material being analyzed is used for teaching and learning foreign languages. So these limits the focus to aspect of the methodology of the materials and the linguistic nature of their content. So this framework consists of two main sections, the publication and designs. So publication relates to the tangible or the physical aspect of materials and how they appear as a complete set, whether on paper or electronically. So under the section of publication, we have 7 subsections. Okay, so please place the learner's materials in any wider set of materials. So here, a good example with this is a student book and the teacher's guidebook. So the student book consists of activities, lessons, and some exams, while teacher's guidebook consists of the lessons and activities as well as the answer key. The second is the published form from the learner's materials. Here, materials are checked if it's a worksheet, module, reference book, etc. And the third one is the subdivision of learner's materials into sections. So here materials are checked how they are divided into different sections or for example, this book. Okay, if the student is studying this module in ethics, this module is divided into three sections or parts. Okay, part 1, part 2, and part 3. So next we have the subdivision of section into subsection. Okay, so if you notice, these ethics book have 3 sections. So each section have different parts. So we have chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So next, we have the continuity or coherence. So the material should be maintained and the order in which the material can be used is predetermined, so which falls into rote. So lastly, we have access. Alright, so these suggest one further element. How to access materials in supported or if the materials is supported. For example, whether there are content lists, word lists, or indexes, etc. The next section is in Littlejohn's framework is the design According to Richard and Rogers, design refers to the thinking underlying the material. So this involves consideration of different areas, and the first area under design is the aim. All right. So this focuses on the development of specific skills. Next, we have the principle of selection. So this refers to how the task, language, and content in the materials are selected. So next to we have the principle of sequencing. So this refers to how task, language, and content in the materials are sequenced. For example, if for example of this one is the syllabus and the use of corpora. So the fourth one we have subject matter and focus of the subject matter. So this refers to the nature and focus of the content in the materials. For example, the storyline, topics, etc. Another one we have type of teaching or learning activities. So here, we have to analyze, or analyzing this section will focus on what they require the learner to do. An analysis of teaching learning activities that are suggested by the materials. For example, the comprehension task, learners training, etc. So this subsection focuses closely on what precisely learners are asked to do. So next we have how they draw on the learner's process competence. It includes knowledge, affects, abilities, and skill. So according to Bran and Candlin, a process competence refers to the learner's capacity to draw in different realms of knowledge, their effects, their abilities to express, interpret, and deduce meanings, and to use the different skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So next one, we have the participation, who does what with, who and whom. So there is a lot of participation that student can participate in. This might include involvement in the face-to-face activities such as experiments, simulation seminars, discussions, debates, and group activities. So participation in online activities such as a discussion in chat rooms, online forums, and webinars could also be taken into account. Okay, next we have the learner's role. So learner's role is to participate in every activity that a teacher facilitates and also listen to the discussion and share their ideas about the lesson. The next one we have the teacher's role. So the primary role of a teacher in a multi-dimensional language class is to establish conditions and develop activities so that students can practice the language in a meaningful context. And the last one, we have the role of material as a whole. We can examine the materials to determine what role they intend for themselves. Do they, for example, aim to micromanage the classroom event by providing detailed guidance on how learners and teachers can work together? All right. So now, let's have the next framework of analysis according to Littlejohn. It's how can we examine the materials? In building up an analysis of a set of materials, the teacher should not only examine the different section of the materials, but most importantly, the different levels of analysis. So there are three levels to examine the materials under this framework. The first one is what is there. Second, what is required of the user. And the last one, what is implied. So let's start first with what is there. Under this section, we have three subsections. First, we have statement of description. So the physical aspect of the materials. So main steps in the construction section. This section is also known as an objective description. This means we are analyzing the physical aspect of the material, such as the their published form. Is it a durable book or a consumable worksheet? Is it a soft copy or a hard copy? We also look at the number of pages. Also, the use of colors. For example, your student are kids, so the material should be colorful so that the children will be motivated to learn. It also focuses on the total number of components such as the students' books, workbooks, audio materials, etc. We also check how the materials are divided into section or to different sections or units. So another one we have the subdivision of each section into different chapters or lesson. So let's move on to the second level. So, what is required by users? Under this level, we gave two subsections. First, we have division or subdivision into the constituent task, and second, an analysis task. What are the learners expected to do? Who with, and with what content? This level is known as the subjective analysis, and the focus in this level is the task. So according to Bren and Canlin, the task refers to the proposal contained within the material for action to be undertaken by the learners, which has a direct aim of bringing about the learning of a foreign language. So going back to the subjective analysis, at this level we need to divide the materials into constituent tasks, analyze each task, what are the learners expected to do, who with, and what with, and with what content. So what is the learners expected to do? A learning outcome is a clear statement of what a learner is expected to do, know about, and value after a unit of study. So during the lesson, students are expected to take turns, share their thoughts with the class, and participate in class discussion which we have. Okay, next we have the who with or with whom. It refers to the classroom participation concerning with whom the learners are to work. Lastly, we have with what content. So this refers to the content that learners are to focus on. It also refers to the input of the learners and the output from the learners. So the last level is what is implied. So this level is subdivided into three subsections: the deducing aims, the principle of selection, and the sequence. All right. So deducing teacher and learner's rule. Deducing demands on learner's process competence. So the final level of analysis draws and finding the level 1 and level 2 to come to some general conclusion about the apparent underlying principles of the materials. So the first subsection from this level is the deducing aims, the principle of selection and sequence. Working from the description of the explicit nature of level 1 and analysis of the task from level 2, it will now be possible to make the statement about the overall aims of the materials and the basis for selecting and sequencing both task and content. So next we have the deducing teacher and learner rules. So at this third level of description, we should know or we should now be able to know the conclusion about the rules proposed for the teachers and learners. We can do this by examining how various sections of the materials are allocated for teachers and learners, but we are likely to find the evidence for this in the analysis of tasks, particularly under the turn take and the various categories under input and output source. So the last one, we have deducing demand on learners' process competence. So at this level, we be able to produce the general statement about the nature of the demands placed upon learners to accomplish their learning. Also, at this level, we will be able to come to conclusion about what appears to be the rule of the materials as a whole in facilitating language learning and teaching. So the last framework that we have in analyzing language teaching material is um, the the last question is how can we use or how can we make use of the findings from the analysis. So under this framework, we have four sections. So first, assist in material evaluation and decision making. Second, the findings from the analysis will be a big help in material evaluation by using, or the findings from the analysis will be a big help in material evaluation by using the findings from the analysis, and teacher can easily identify the popular and the successful feature of existing materials, which will help in producing better materials. The next one, we have using the findings from the analysis can help the teacher's own professional development. It can facilitate a teacher's deep understanding of what is involved in the teacher-learner relationship. It helps teacher understand their own teaching style. So the next one, we have using the findings from the analysis can help the material designers in their critical self-evaluation. An analysis of materials followed by a simple question. Is this what I am aiming at? Can cause writers to rethink the design of the materials. And the last one is the researcher's study of language teaching can use the findings from the analysis. So, using the framework of Little John's research can easily look for credible studies or related studies that they can use in their studies. So, in conclusion, Andrew Littlejohn wrote the article to suggest that the complex nature of modern day teaching materials and the extent of their use are now widespread. So it is necessary to closely analyze the materials so that we can see what's inside them and talk more or take more control of their design and use in language teaching. All right, so that's it for our discussion. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.